It's between, because, we're seeing the market quite flooded now with these multi-therapy mats, these ones that are made in China. And, we've already touched on the ferrite rods and coils, which we know that they use. They, slap 2 or 3, sometimes 4 coils in there, so they're not getting good coverage, all these sorts of things. But, what's the biggest takeaway from you in terms of how does your mat compare to these?
There is no comparison, okay? It's crazy because all those China mats, they basically are designed to look good and talk about all kinds of stuff on it. When it comes down to actual delivery of anything, right? Like, do they make PMF? Yes, they do. But if you want to compare them with a light system, for example, you have a high-end BMW, I'm having a dyslexic moment, that have a really nice lighting system on the front end of their car. And then you have a Russian Lada made from 1972 lighting system. Are they both going to allow you to drive in the dark on the street? Yes. Which one you want to be in? Well, you want to be in the BMW because you're going to see well, right? This is a good lighting system. So the Celeray has that. Like, they have a good lighting system, right? That's well designed. Well, the China one have the 1972 Russian Lada lighting system, right? So yes, they work, but man alive, like, seriously, I think we can do better than that today. That's the problem with the China stuff. It's mass produced, and the PMF they make is not the best by any stretch of imagination. Plus, it's not overlay. So that creates a big problem in the industry because all of a sudden, people that use your mat or build their own mat from me, and they're like telling the world they're getting great results. And then the people go on Amazon are like, well, I'm not going to pay $5,000-$6,000 for a mat. I cannot make my own. I talked to Steve, see if he can make me one, but he's busy right now. So he's busy riding horses. And so they go on Amazon and they buy $1,000 or $1,500 mat, right? And then they sit on it and they're getting marginal, if no results at all. And like, well, this stuff doesn't work. Well, you're not being fair. You're not actually trying to do that. So that's the dark side of those cheap knockoff system, is that they give the industry a bad reputation.
And you told me before this podcast episode, so we haven't discussed this yet, or I don't know what you're going to say here, but you said to me you took a bit of a mystery shop to some of these guys. So you reached out to them directly. So these are the manufacturers directly. So not the brands that are representing them, but some of the, the actual factories themselves in China, and asked them some questions. So what did you find out? What was your experience with this? Because, just to add to that, I also contacted these guys originally. Even when we were developing our systems, I wanted to look at other devices and how they worked and all that sort of thing. And I asked them what the intensity was of the PMF, and none of them could answer the question. And they actually started asking us how to measure PEMFs. And I'm thinking, you guys are, you're making a system. It's been in the market now for, a number of years. And you're asking me how to measure the intensity, which, I was surprised at. So, what was your experience with this?
My experience was comical. And what you just said there, I'm not the kind of guy that says, oh yeah, well, watch my story. Exactly what you said, but even worse. Because these companies, I contacted 3 different companies, and one of them in particular found out who I was. They actually Googled me up and they found my YouTube channels and everything. And then the conversation turned into, please, please, please educate us, teach us. And I was like, no, I'm not here